tonight there is a very special event, and it's going to take place in the Whelan's pub in Dublin too, and it's organized by the Club Dublin. For those that doesn't know what the Club Dublin does, it's a platform where scientists or researchers can become stand-up comedians. Not only that, they also bring real comedians, and together with scientists they form a big explosion of laugh, comedy, ideas, knowledge, you name it. And what is more important, that is addressed to the general public, so anyone can come in, have a beer and enjoy the comedy. Tonight's performers are researchers from the area of psychology, anthropology and bioengineering. So if you want to know more about the Club Dublin, stay with us.
Yeah, madam with the brown hair, what type of environmental science do you do?
Marine biology and oceanography.
Right, it's very embarrassing, but I was talking to the lady in front of you. Yeah. But thank you for that input. Yeah. So now you can answer. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm very nice. Yeah.
I studied biodiversity and conservation.
Oh, biodiversity and conservation.
I'm a teacher now.
You're a teacher now. Good for you, adding extra details. See, she was listening at the start. Yeah. No, that's cool. Welcome. Environmental scientists are welcome. Any other types of people in? Yeah. Yeah. Any ideas of other professions? Scientific, academic professions? No. Right, that's it. No, we've got 2 environmental scientists, and that's it. Awesome. Guys, are you guys having a good time?
Yeah.
Yes? Are you ready to have a better time? Yeah. I will give you the first fact of the evening, okay?
Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Andrew. You can hear me on the Psychology and Mind podcast with writer and broadcaster Gareth Stack. And the great thing about Bright Club, I work for a department of psychology, and the difference with Bright Club is it doesn't have an ethics committee. So I'd like to try out a little experiment. Yeah. Don't worry, it's more of a thought experiment. So I'd like you to remember a week or two ago when you probably saw something on the internet that not only hurt your feelings, but that offended you. If that didn't happen, you can imagine it. I'm just kidding, it happens to everyone. But, so I'd just like to imagine then I ask you a number of questions about memory, which is something I'm quite interested in. So I'd like you to imagine that this half of the room, that I ask you a series of questions about your memory, and I'd say, what do you remember about that tweet that you saw? And I ask this half of the room, what do you remember about that tweet when it smashed into your primary visual cortex? So, when I ask this half of the room, they're probably going to be more likely to endorse statements along the lines of, that tweet hurt me physically, inside my skull. So why do I say this? I suppose my point is that a lot of people tend to think about memory as an objective set of facts about their lives that they can go back to and consult, like books in a library. However, the fact about memory is that it's really something that when we recall something from far back in our lives.
Thank you to Bright Club for inviting me tonight. I was really looking forward to this. Last week I had an awful day. Whole week, actually, an awful week at work. It was shitty. And the one thing I was looking forward to was Thursday last week, I was supposed to watch Matilda, the musical, at the Borgosh. I was really looking forward to it. And about 10 minutes in, I was so annoyed by her. Couldn't stand her. And I swear to you, if you haven't watched it, you should watch it, by the way. And if you're on the fence, Matilda is the best argument on why we should vote yes. You should. Hi, my name is Marlon. I'm 35 years old. I'm from the Philippines. And when I say that here at 35, people in Ireland, they get really panicky about it. And like, oh my god, you're so young, you look so young, such amazing skin. And I always tell them, yes. I always tell them, like, oh, as an Asian, God, gave us Asians good skin, and gave you guys white privilege. So I think it'll balance out. I think, tit for tat. Anyway, about 2.5 years ago, I moved to Dublin. I was born and raised in the Philippines. And ever since then, it's been one adventure after the other. New experiences, new friends, met new people, new discoveries, which you would appreciate this. I discovered here in Dublin a new scent, which I'd like to call damp knitwear. You're familiar. You have encountered this as well. The first time I encountered this scent, I was on the Lewis. Just standing there, minding my own business, and the doors opened, and the wind came in and went whoosh, and it hit me like a waterfall. And my eyes started to burn, my skin started to itch. I was looking around for answers, and people were just standing there all normal. So I went over and started tugging out their clothes, and like, oh my god, you know what's happening? Is this normal? And someone finally took me to the side and explained to me, you don't really talk on the red line.
Hello, hello. How are you today? Fantastic. Now, I'm a biologist, a biotechnologist, though not a sports scientist, so I can't actually answer your question on the benefits of dildos and rectums during exercise. I'm sorry. So, but I did have a difficult time trying to think of a topic for today's routine, because I've had such a broad research career to date. I'm like a kid in a sweet shop. I just don't know what to pick. I want to pick everything. So I was thinking of nanotechnology, but it'd be a small act. Prostate cancer. I can't really make jokes on prostate cancer. I'm not an ass, though I can't put my finger on why. Bovine mastitis, which is inflammation of the cow mammary gland. I thought that would be utterly ridiculous. I'd make a bit of a tit of myself on stage. I make no apologies for the milking of any puns in this show. I think you've heard them all before. Yeah. Just be glad I couldn't think of anything involving PSA, because you bet your bottom dollar I would have used a PSA pun in this show. Just to define biotechnology, it's the exploitation of biological processes for industry or other applications, which is a fancy way of saying we take advantage of biology to produce medical products such as antibiotics or antibodies. So, and we usually like to use bacteria because they're very cheap and easy to grow, unlike those feckin' prima donna mammalian cells, which means constant babying, and they get F all out of them at the end. They truly are the Kim Kardashians of the biotechnology world, whoever the hell that is. So bacteria, they're very easy to manipulate genetically. We can add in genes, and we don't have to worry too much about the ethics about experimenting with bacteria, unless you're dealing or trying to create some sort of super plague to do humanity. By the way, Brian, how's that research coming? Good. Run. just take one step behind bacterial communities, because they rob each other for each other's genes. So they'll kill each other to rob their genes, so they'll go to grave digging essentially and rob genes from dead bacteria in order to confer an advantage. So they'll steal a gene for antibiotic resistance or to break down a new substrate. And so that's something we can't do. I can't rob your blue eyes, for example. Well, I could rob your blue eyes, but that's murder.
An amazing lost woman of science. Sally Ride was the first American woman in space. Yeah, third ever woman in space and first LGBT astronaut, right? Sally Ride was pretty cool. She went into space in 1983, right? And before she went to space, she did a press conference, because she had to put up with quite a lot, right, being one of the first women at NASA. So she did a press conference before she went to space. And the press asked Sally questions like, I'm going to do the accent, just in case there's any casting directors in. The press asked her, Sally, will you wear a bra in space? They genuinely asked her that. I like to think she replied with, well, with questions like these, I need all the support I can get. They also asked her, Sally, will the flight affect your reproductive organs? I like to think she replied with, no, but this question may affect yours.
anthropology is where you study a community that you come from. This sort of originated with Native Americans studying their own tribes in the United States. And the idea was kind of that you knew the ways of your people, but then you'd been trained as an anthropologist so you could look at them through an objective lens. The other form of anthropology, which is ultimately more common, is what I like to refer to as bumbling white guy anthropology. And the way that bumbling white guy anthropology works, or is supposed to work, is that you go somewhere where a native anthropologist might come from, right? And you stand out like a sore thumb. So you are the only white guy, and you're preferably pretty bumbling. And the way that you learn about the culture is by making mistakes. And people will take you under their wing and say, oh no, we don't, eat with our left hand, we eat with our right hand. No, we don't eat with our left hand, we eat with a fork. And to which the anthropologist always says, I'm going to take a photograph, take off your wristwatch. So I had these sort of two modes of anthropology presented to me. Now, I work in Central Asia, which you may or may not have heard of. Many people have not. It's the part of Asia that everybody forgets, all the stands. So I work in Kazakhstan, which is actually the 9th largest country in the world by geographic area. It's between Russia and China, and it kind of almost kisses Mongolia. So like they don't actually share a border, it's more like Lady and the Tramp and like that moment with the noodle. And you're just kind of waiting for it to happen. And I also work in Kyrgyzstan, which is a much smaller country that's sort of nestled between Kazakhstan and China. I'm definitely not a native anthropologist. I'm not from either of these countries. But I found out when I went to Kazakhstan, and I probably should have expected this given that I'm not a white guy, that the bumbling white guy mode of anthropology didn't work for me either, because I didn't stand out. For instance, I lived with this wonderful, wonderful family who were very patient with me because I get to Kazakhstan and they speak two languages there, Russian and Kazakh. And I had not studied Russian, and I had studied some Kazakh, but my Kazakh was really, really bad. And so my host father would do things like we would go to the marketplace and he would be like, that's a loaf of bread, and that's a jug of milk, and that's a fish. And one day we get to this stall and there are all these different types of melon. And he's going through like 80 different varieties of melon. And the melon vendor comes over to us and she says, who is this guy? And why doesn't he know what a melon is? And my host father says, well, he's an American. And she says, no, seriously, who is he and why doesn't he know what a melon is? And he says, well, he's an American exchange student and he lives with us and he's learning Kazakh. And she just looks at us, deadpan, says, stop bullshitting me. He looks Kazakh, he speaks Kazakh, he is Kazakh. And this was one of those things that really got me starting to think about this connection between language and race, and the way that the perception of one leads to the perception of the other. Now, of course, had she actually heard me speak Kazakh, she might not have been so convinced, but she did see me comprehend it. So, one day I was taking a taxi, and now taxis in Kazakhstan are basically paid hitchhiking. So you put out your hand, you negotiate a price, the person takes you there, hopefully, or else you die. But that's another story. And so I get in this cab, and we negotiate the price. He asked me "Kuda," which is Russian for "Where are you going?" And I give him the Kazakh names of the streets because, of course, in Kazakhstan, all street names have both a Kazakh and a Russian name. And then he asked me, "Skolka," how much in Russian? And it takes me a moment to process this, and I'm like, "Bis," which is Kazakh for 5. And so he's like, "Okay, get in." So he keeps giving me these weird looks as we're driving along. And it later occurred to me that it was probably like, who is this guy? There's something a little off about him. Why isn't he answering me in Russian? What's going on here? Finally, he turns to me and he asks me something, and I have no idea what he said, but because it was all in Russian. And so I just do what I always do. Не знаю. I don't know. So then he asks me the same question verbatim. And I have this moment of panic. And to this day, I still have absolutely no idea what this guy asked me. And I just go, "Не говорить по-русски," which is about the equivalent of "me no speak English." And then I ask him, "Do you speak Kazakh?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Ah, siz Kitaydan siz Roy. Of course, you're from China." And it takes me a moment, but I realize that he doesn't think I'm Chinese. He thinks I'm Kazakh from China. Because in the 1930s, when the Soviets were trying to settle the nomadic people, millions of people fled the country, many to Mongolia, many to China. And a lot of them have come back over in the meantime. And so this explains why I look Kazakh, I speak Kazakh, I don't speak Russian, right? All his questions are answered until I say, "No, actually I'm an American, and my father's German and my mother's Japanese.